Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Handful of Daisies DIY. If you're new here, I'm Elaine. Thanks so much for joining me today. This week's project's all about decoupage paper. And I went a little overboard as I was shopping for these papers. I couldn't decide which ones I wanted, so I ended up getting all of the ones I wanted. So I wanted to show you those today, and then we're going to do a few projects with them. So the first paper I got were these sunflowers. Now I did pick up about 4 of these, and I think I'm going to use these on some signs. I'm just not sure yet what I'm going to do with all of them. The next ones I picked up were these really beautiful trucks. Well, not trucks, just an old car and an old general store. I thought those were gorgeous. I'll make some signs out of those as well. I did get 2 of those. And then for some fall signs, I picked up these pumpkin papers. We're going to make some large signs out of those. I did get 2 of those. And I did pick these up at Zazzle's, so there are a couple different vendors within Zazzle that I picked them up. I'll link everything below, where I got them and what the names are. And I picked up these sheep. I got 2 of those as well. Like I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to put them all on. I want to do some furniture pieces with a few of these, and then some signs or some wall art with the rest. And I just love these. They're gorgeous. And I did pick up 2 of those as well. And then this beautiful flowered floral one. Thought that was gorgeous as well. I may use that on the furniture piece. Again, I picked up 2 of those as well. And these black and white ones, if you've watched any of my other videos, you know black and white is really what I love the most. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to do these on a furniture piece. They're just so pretty. So 2 of those as well. Then these larger sunflower sheets. I thought were gorgeous. I think I've got maybe 4 of those. And then the welcome to our farm. That was gorgeous as well. I do have a bunch of old windows that I might try to put these on as well. Like I said, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with all of them, but I think those would look really good on the old windows. And then some more fall ones, these pumpkins. I thought were beautiful. They look like watercolors. those as well. And then these are larger florals. Just opened up. You can see how large these are. And they're a little bit heavier weight than the tissue paper. They might work out well on a furniture piece. I've been watching some videos trying to learn how to paint around the decoupage paper on furniture, so I am going to try that in an upcoming video, so look out for that. I did got 2 of those. And then the last 2, these are the really heavy paper. So I'll probably make some signs out of these. They are almost a cardstock paper. I thought they were gorgeous. That might actually work well on one of the windows as well. And then I thought this was gorgeous. See that? The light might be a little bright on it. So we'll figure out what to do with all of these. I do have a couple projects we're going to work on today, so let's get started on those. Our first project is going to be using this paper, Pumpkin Spice and Everything Nice. It's one of my favorites. We're going to be putting it on this board, and this is a board that I cut out a fence post for my barn quilt video. If you haven't seen that, I'll link that below. I had a few left over. I only ended up making 2 barn quilts, so I had several left over that I need to use. I thought this pumpkin was the perfect project for that. So I'm going to be using polyacrylic to put it down. So I'm going to shoot you down to this so you can see what I'm doing. So I wasn't sure which way I wanted to turn this. Whether I wanted it long ways or this way. It's about the same either way. I think I'm going to do it this way. Now the first thing I want to do is just fray the edges a little bit, just because I don't want it to be a hard stop on the paper. So let me find some sandpaper. So I've got this sanding block. I'm just going to see if I can fray the edges. If not, I can always just wet it. I think it might work better if I just wet the edges. Move this board out of the way. So I'm just going to take a paintbrush and some water and see if I can just take those edges off. I just want to not have such a hard edge on there so it looks a little more cohesive with the piece. So you can see how that's sprayed. I'm just going to do that all the way around. It's a little hard to see on this what I have laid down, what I'm doing here. I don't want to go in too far, just the edges. I'm in my craft room, so I don't have my sander. I could use my sander on the edges, but I think sometimes that takes a lot more off than you want to take off. Now, you don't have to do this. You can leave your hard edges if you want. I just think it looks better if it's not just that straight piece, because then it doesn't look as much like you just laid a piece of paper down on the board. I think that's good. Let me see if I can get that up. Here we go. Since it's wet, you have to be really careful. So you can see the frayed edges there. I'm going to lay my board back down. And get it placed where I want it. Trying to center it the best I can. It's rolled up a little here on the end. See if I can pull that out. So I get it centered where I want it. I'm going to use my polyacrylic to put it down. So I'm going to fold it over and just start in the middle and try to get it down as smooth as I can without having a bunch of wrinkles. Now this wood is really dry, so I'm going to have to put the polyacrylic on pretty thick and just do it a little at a time. So I'm just going to smooth it out as I'm putting it down. Again, I don't want to tear the paper, so I'm just going to dab on it. I'm going to have wrinkles regardless because of the wood. And I'm hoping with the dark background it's still going to show up really well, because this is a really nice like watercolor look. Like the look of the natural wood, is why I didn't paint it first and get that white background. I'm just hoping that it still shows up. We'll see. And this paper is really thin, so I'm trying to be really careful with it. But I want to press it down so it's adhered really well. And then once I'm done, I'll come back and put another coat on top. And you can use Mod Podge for this as well. Like I said, I'm using the polyacrylic just because of the wood and it's so porous and the wood's so dry. I wasn't sure if the polyacrylic would work as well. But we're going to see how it turns out. Sometimes you just have to try a project and see what happens. I mean, it's going to be really faded, but I'm hoping it, once it dries, it comes out a little bit brighter. And then I'm going to move over to the other side. So right now it looks a little faded, but once it dries, I'm going to go ahead and put another coat of polyacrylic on the top and then let that dry. If I put another coat on top right now, it's probably just going to tear the paper. So I'm going to let that dry first. So we'll let that dry and then we'll come back and put another coat all the way across the top to seal in the wood as well. Then we'll put some hangers on the back and see how it looks. Alright, I think it's all pretty dry now. So before I top coat it, I'm just going to take my knife and cut in between the slats. Always wait till it's dry to do this so you don't tear the paper. And then when you put your polyacrylic on it, it'll help get it back down in those creases. So while I was waiting for it to dry, I always put my brush in a little baggie just so it doesn't dry out. Because you don't want to always have to wash out your brushes in between when you know you're just going to use it again. So I'm going to take my brush and just try to get it down in those creases. Because I do still want to show the panels on the board. Sometimes these are a little tight together, so you may have to help it along in between the boards. And that little knife is just from Dollar Tree. I think I got those before Dollar Tree changed over to $1.25, so it was $1. And I think it was a pack of several. I don't remember how many. So now I'm just going to do a good coat over the whole thing. I am still being careful that I don't tear the paper. I'm just trying to make sure it is adhered really well though. And as you can see, there are some part that looks like it had a little air under it. That's the hard thing about using rough cut wood. To put something like this on, it absorbs the polyacrylic into the wood because it's so dry, and then it looks like there's little air pockets under it. That's why you want to make sure you do put a sealer on the top so it doesn't bubble up and come back off. And I am doing all of the wood to seal it in, not just where the paper is. Just trying to make sure I get a good even coat so I don't have a lot of streaks. And once this is dry, I'll see if I need to put a second coat on it or not. Alright, we're going to let that dry and then we'll see how it looks once it's dry, if we need a second coat or if that's going to be good and how good the pumpkin shows, because it is really light. You can see how light it is, and it is paper, so it's going to show a little bit once it's dry. There's no way around that on this wood. It would have showed a little bit less had I put a white background, but I really love the wood look with this paper. So let's see how it's going to turn out. So here's a look at how it turned out. I love it on the wood, but let me know what you think in the comments below. Should I try one with a white background as well? I'd love to know what you think. Alright, here's a look at what we're going to do for our next project. Another pumpkin paper. I really need to put some fall stuff in my booth, so that's why we're working on all the fall stuff today. So we're going to use this paper. And I picked up this checkerboard. It's wood. It is cracked in the middle, but that's okay. We're going to go with that anyway. It just makes it look a little bit more rustic. It is very thick. This one we are going to paint, and we're going to be painting this one in Dixie Belle's Fluff. And because this paper has some little bit of brown on the edges, we're going to use some antiquing wax to go around the edges as well. So let's go ahead and get this board painted up. I love the rustic on the board. It looks really worn, and I think that's going to make this look even better. So let's put this paper to the side so I don't get paint on that. Now you could go ahead and put some wood filler in here as well to take care of that hole. Like I said, I'm not going to worry about that. We are going to be putting paper on top of it. I did pick this up at Goodwill. I don't know if I said that yet. It was $1.99. So anytime you're looking for wood for a project, try looking at one of your thrift stores, because it's a whole lot cheaper than going to buy pieces at Walmart or Lowe's, when you can find something like this already put together. And this one already has the edging on it as well. So we're going to let that dry and see how it looks. Alright, this is all good and dry now. I did off camera put a second coat on it, and it did not bleed through, thank goodness. But sometimes it doesn't until you put a top coat on it. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off. Alright, now we have a good surface to work with. We don't have to put a top coat on this. Normally you would put a top coat on it, but since we're using polyacrylic on this, we're not going to have to do that. Let's see if I can get a little bit of that crease out where the paper was folded. And you can see this is a little bit longer than what my board is. I'm just going to try to get it as straight as possible. And then just crease it so I know where it needs to lay. And it's really a perfect fit between the top graphic and the bottom graphic. I'm not going to cut that off yet. I'm going to go ahead and put the polyacrylic on it first. And I didn't go around the edges and pull the edges off, just because I'm going to try to do a technique around the edges just to blend it in a little bit. I didn't measure this, so I hope I have it good and straight. We are using polyacrylic again. Normally I would use my brayer to get this down, but I am not sure where it's at right now. I may try to use the saran wrap to get that down. I'll be right back. Alright, so I just got this saran wrap. I'm going to just ball it up. I think that is supposed to help spread it out without tearing the paper. Let's see how well that works. Seems to be working really well. Like I said, I normally use my brayer to do this, but I've seen other people use this. Alright, I'm going to let that dry before I do anything else. Then we'll use a little blending around the edges just so we can tie those edges in. Okay, now that's good and dried. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off the edges. So I do have mixed up some Waverly antiquing wax with a little bit of the black ink from Waverly. So I'm just going to dip my brush in. And I don't want a whole lot on my brush. So I'm going to dab it off on this. And then I'm just going to kind of feather around it and see if I can blend it a little bit. Now I haven't went back and put the polyurethane on the top. I decided I wanted to do this first. So now all that's left to do is we're going to put a top coat on. I'm going to use the polyacrylic to go over the top and around the edges and make sure everything's sealed in really well. So I'll go ahead and get the top coat put on. Here's a look at how the second one turned out. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this one. I know this was a long video, so thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed today's projects. Make sure if you're not subscribed, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the other projects we're doing with all this wonderful decoupage paper.